just using this. Don't worry about it.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Religious Society Unitarian Universalist in Newburyport, Massachusetts. My name is Dawn Pelletier, and I have the privilege and joy of serving you as your worship associate today. Welcome again to our 2022-2023 church year. If you are visiting with us today or joining us for the first time, welcome. We are glad you are here. And if you are joining us online, you will find a link to the order of service in your reminder email, or just below the live stream window. Every Sunday, FRS comes together as a church community in person and online, committed to love, peace, and justice. Our core values are authentic connection, courageous action, love, spirituality, and wonder. Come as you are, journey together in love, act with courage, transform our world. It is my honor to introduce three guests who we have with us today. Paul W. and Denise K. Pouliot are the Sagamot and Sagamasca male and female head speakers of the Cowasac Band of the Pennacook Abenaki people. Paul is an Indigenous historian and is a founding member of the New Hampshire Commission on Native American Affairs, where Denise currently serves as vice chair. In her spare time, Denise creates coil, bark, or woven baskets and produces traditional ceremonial clothing. Together they serve as federal religious advisors, affiliate faculty members of the UNH Native American and Indigenous Studies minor, and are founding members of the Indigenous New Hampshire Collaborative Collective. We are honored that Paul and Denise are with us today to present us with a flag of the Cowasek Band of the Pennacook Abenaki people, in honor of our partnership with and support of the Indigenous people in this area. Denise and Paul will also be leading a flag raising with Mayor Reardon outside of City Hall. Everyone is invited today to join us from 12 to 12:30 p.m. We also welcome Patricia D. Rocker, Council Chairwoman of the Chappaquiddick Tribe of the Wampanoag Nation, Whale Clan, and Advisory Council member of the Massachusetts Center for Native American Awareness. Patricia lives in Salisbury, Massachusetts. We hope you will join us for soup and salad downstairs in the lower meeting house at noon, followed by a Justice Sunday program from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. here in the sanctuary. Patricia will be sharing the story of her great-great-grandmother Eunice Matthews Rocker, a Chappaquiddick Wampanoag woman of Indigenous and African descent. It's a story that began over 140 years ago on the island of Nope in Martha's Vineyard. You won't want to miss it. Patricia's talk will be followed by discussion about the ways we can participate in deconstructing the injustices of the past. Patricia will be with our children in Young Church this morning, while Paul and Denise are with us in worship. We also invite you to join us next Saturday, October 8th at 10 a.m. at the Waterfront Park for the Indigenous Peoples Day observance. Paul and Denise Pouliot will be leading the opening ceremonies, followed by Indigenous music, drumming, dance, and speakers. Help us to honor our region's Indigenous nations and support recognition of Indigenous People Day at the city, state, and national level. It is such a blessing to come together, so let us give ourselves to it. Welcome once again.
It is indeed good to be together. It is always my favorite moment of the week, I have to say, as I sit here and see who's with us this morning. Some who I've seen each week, some who are here for the first time. I missed you dearly last week. I was at an installation for Reverend Sophia Lyons in Watertown. And I have to share two quick things. One is driving down there, I turned to Bart, my partner, and said, "I'd rather be back at home." And he said, "Well, that's a good thing." And then at that service where they were celebrating their ministry, the start of their new shared ministry, my heart just was bursting with that memory of newness and joy and hope and beginning. And it just made me all the more excited to come right back here. Our call to worship this morning is our land acknowledgement. We honor that we are indeed standing, this building and all of us, on land traditionally occupied by the Cowasek Band of the Pennacook Abenaki people. Pennacook, also called Merrimack, means bottom of the hill. We acknowledge that these people were horrifically colonized and stripped of their lives and dignity and robbed of the land they loved and stewarded. We also acknowledge that they are still here with us today and now, among us, living with us, offering their many gifts to the community in diverse ways. We say that the spirit and therefore the heart of this land is your land, Cowasek Band of the Pennacook Abenaki people. You are faithfully called to worship.
Please join us in the words of our chalice lighting while Esme and Forrest light the chalice. The words can be found in your order of service. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Each week, we also light 2 candles of peace, representing 2 places on earth we lift up and remember as a sacred encounter with our world. There are untold numbers of places on earth that need peace. These 2 we especially hold close in this service and through the week ahead. After each candle is lit, I will invite you to respond by saying, "To this we respond," inviting you to say together, "Peace, Sol, Shalom." Our first candle this morning is lit for Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and all of the areas where Hurricane Ian landed and will continue, with extreme conditions, including catastrophic floods, life-threatening storm surges. As of an hour ago, we know that at least 67 people have lost their lives. We pray for a peaceful recovery of the affected communities and for all of those who have lost loved ones. To this we respond, "Peace, Sol, Shalom." And our second candle this morning is lit for Newburyport, where you still are hearing some music perhaps, for the Jeannie Geiger Walk that was this morning, the 31st year that they've been holding the walk to raise funds to work to end domestic violence, not only in this city and the 16 surrounding towns they serve, but throughout our country. We side and partner with all who are working to create a violence-free world, and we stand in solidarity with all those affected by domestic violence. To this we respond, "Peace, Sol, Shalom." Please rise in body or in spirit, and let's join in our opening hymn in the Teal hymnal, 1008, "When Our Heart is in a Holy Place."
Heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
please remain standing and let's join our voices in our affirmation of faith and doxology. The words are in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
From all that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land by every tongue.
Please be seated. And at this time, I'd like to invite all of our children and youth forward.
And I'd like to invite Denise and Paul Pulio to join us.
Mendakina, away, away. Holy, go on, gone. Away. Holy, get seen a was. Holy, Casino was Mendakina, away, away. Holy, go on, gone. Away. Holy, Casino was. Holy Casino was.
Quai Nidobach, Indelawasin Denise Pulio, Sagama Squaw, Woodelawasin Paul Pulio, Sagamo, Kausak Band of the Pennacook Abenaki people, Neona Ayan Odanaku Nipi. Hello, friends. My name is Denise Pulio. I'm the head female speaker, and this is Paul Pulio, the head male speaker in chief of the Kawasek Band of the Pennacook Abenaki people. We come to you today from our ancient Pennacook village of Odanaku-Nipi, which translates to the village of the narrowing of waters, now located on Lake Winnipesaukee, now known as Alton, New Hampshire. We began today by singing Ndakina, which translates to our homelands, thanks to all our ancestors, and great thanks to Creator.
We typically begin all events with a land acknowledgement and stewardship statement. Today we will finish with that statement, hoping that we will briefly discuss how we provide a greater insight and deeper understanding of us. Currently, here in the United States, there are 574 federally recognized tribes and over 630 in Canada, with approximately 250 tribes pending recognition in the U.S. alone. Each tribal group has different religious views and practices, with one common core belief: Mother Earth is sacred and needs to be protected. We can in no way speak for all the tribes across this nation, but we can only speak on behalf of our own people, the Cossack Band of the Pennacook Abenaki people.
We want to openly acknowledge that in a few short minutes, we will not be able to dismantle all that has been misrepresented throughout the generations, but hope that each one of you will leave here today and continue your personal education to improve your understanding of Indigenous religious and environmental beliefs and practices. Let's begin by stating some uncomfortable facts. For 13,000 years, Indigenous people lived on Indakina, our homelands, following Creator's law by developing sustainable lifeways to maintain the purity of our environment. In the late 15th century, European expansion occurred under the guise of religious persecution. However, these religious settlers displaced and hunted the indigenous inhabitants in order to steal the lands.
The United States was formed and established claiming religious freedom for all. However, the indigenous population in the United States were specifically excluded from the Declaration of Independence and even referred to as savages within the document. In 1823, in the Johnson versus McIntosh case, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the Roman Catholic papal bulls would become the law of the land in an attempt to justify ongoing indigenous land theft and the suppression and destruction of indigenous peoples, families, and communities. This doctrine of discovery is the concept of public international law established and promoted by the Roman Catholic Church and European monarchies in the 1400s. And this was all to legitimize the colonization and domination of all non-Christian lands outside of Europe. The Supreme Court still upholds and enforces that determination today.
As a result, for the last approximately 500 years, Indigenous land stewardship practices stopped, and mainstream society has become deliberately flooded with misguided information, images, and perceived facts about the Indigenous lifestyle, customs, and religious belief system. This deliberate propaganda attack was specifically designed to diminish the humanness of the Indigenous population and to appease and sanctify colonial greed, theft, and environmental abuses occurring throughout this nation. How many people here know that the original inhabitants of these lands, the Indigenous population, were not granted U.S. citizenship until 1924 and didn't receive the right to vote in every state until 1962? Then in 1978, with the passing of the Freedom of Religious Act, for the first time since colonialism, we were granted the freedom to choose our own religion, granted access to some of our historical sacred sites after our forced removal, granted freedom to worship through ceremonial and traditional rites, and allowed the use of and to maintain possession of objects considered sacred. Sacred items like the drum and rattle you just saw being used here.
The first issue we always have to combat as Indigenous peoples is that we were warlike savages without morals. The truth is that we had a highly evolved matriarchal society that lived in harmony with the natural world and our surroundings. These sentiments are supported through the writings of the Jesuits in the early 1600s. The Jesuits studied Abenaki culture, religion, and documented our language in dictionaries while embedded within our community. During that time, it was reported to the Vatican, and I quote, "While we may properly regard this as too great a praise, we must admit they are possessed of a nobility of character remarkable in a savage people." Another quote, "Their sentiments and principles of justice had no parallel amongst other tribes, and that they were never known to have been treacherous nor wanting in honor or conscience in fulfilling their word, given either in public or in private treaty." The next biggest misconception we tend to hear is that we prayed to everything and anything, and we had a multiple of gods everywhere. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but the Abenaki have always been monotheistic, a tribe. We believe in a single creator that is not male nor female. We cannot designate a gender to what we do not know or understand. That is why we call the creator Gisinawasqua, which means the great mystery of life.
Do we pray for the earth and all our surroundings? Absolutely. Indigenous culture and religious practices are intrinsically entwined with our environment and our physical place of being. and therefore it cannot be separated. When we honor, love, take care of, and pray for our planet and all beings that live on it, we ultimately are praying and caring for ourselves too. Creator gifted us with a wondrous place to live and made us the caretakers and stewards of Indakina. Through hours of sitting, watching, learning how our non-human cousins survived, we learned patience, sustainability, longevity, and survivability as we developed respect for all of Creator's gifts and creatures. For 13,000 years, we lived in harmony with our environment, not just surviving, but actually thriving in a sustainable lifestyle.
We recognize the relationship between all living things and that we are completely dependent on each other for survival, which is why we hear us talk about all things are related. Everything Creator has made on this planet has a purpose and a right to exist. It is our responsibility to understand our connection to the environment and all beings around us. We are not expected to completely understand the purpose of absolutely everything. That is why we have faith in Creator, because only Creator has the ability to know everything. However, that is why we have to be so careful of this planet and each other. It is imperative that we learn everything on this planet is designed to be interdependent. We need to understand that when we alter our environment, whether it's from harvesting what we need to eat or the materials needed for the construction of a new building, those acts change the future of the animals and plants and all things that share the earth we live on.
Simply put, every action has a reaction. When we do something in life, it's like dropping a pebble in the water. That ripple we created continually grows as it spreads out across the surface. The ripple may seem insignificant to us as humans, but that same ripple could drown an ant. Creator made that ant just like you and I, and that life is just as important as mine. All of nature is sacred, and who are we to destroy what Creator built? We are taught that Creator can fulfill every need we have: food, clothing, heat, and housing. However, Creator can never satisfy human greed. Creator has already supplied us with healthy and wholesome food, sustainable clothing, heat and housing materials, and most importantly, clean air and water. We made a promise as Alnambak, as the original human beings, to protect and care for those gifts so that they are here for the next 7 generations. These are our next 7 generations, what are at our feet. This is what we are here to protect. This planet, this place is only on loan to us by the future generations. There is nothing more imperative than having our grandchildren's children understand the love we have for them, than through our everyday actions, making sure that they have a clean planet to live, to grow, to thrive.
We have been demanding environmental and social justice for our people since the 1600s. In the early 1700s, it is on record where we petitioned the colonial government of Boston to remove a mill dam on one of our rivers that stopped the migratory fish runs. Many of you remember the spring release of our documentary film, Swimming Upstream, Indigenous Environmental Justice for Our Waterways, where we explain how fish and shellfish were our top food resource and how the dam installation was starving Indigenous people. These dams continue to exist and now starve all residents of the region by increasing water pollution and stopping the fish from spawning, which will eventually exterminate critically important fish populations. However, we continue to remain faithful to Creator's law and steadfast with our ancestors, dedicated to a promise to be the original caretakers of Lanakina. We continue to seek social and environmental justice through water and fishway restoration, removal of invasive species, removal of dams which are starving the rivers and estuaries, access for migratory fish, forestry management, the increased use of sustainable energy, and the removal of the coal-fired Merrimack power plant in Bow.
This plant not only has adverse impacts on the Merrimack River, but it pollutes the air with ozone-depleting gases and toxins. So let's stop for a moment and let's all take a deep breath together. That's a lot of inherited history for everyone to hear and begin to process. Inherited history is to receive or take over a historical narrative from a predecessor. Whether we had an active role in creating it, we have no active role in creating it, but carry the emotional weight with us anyways. I'm grateful that each one of us here and now are not responsible for the past. I'm grateful that we can freely discuss the burden of that inherited history and how these discussions unite and bring us together as a people, as a community. I'm even more grateful that Creator blessed each one of us with the gift of choice, the gift of free will, and that we do not have to continue with the environmentally destructive ways of the past. But we hold the power to change, to be better. To remember that everything Creator has made on this planet was done so with beauty and perfection.
Gisi Nawaskwa recognizes that we are all human and will make mistakes. So it is our responsibility to seize these moments Creator provides, to correct any wrongs, and try to restore the natural balance. This belief is firmly integrated and embedded not just in our religious practices, but within our culture as a people. Creator is forgiving and is giving us an opportunity to remember our original promise to be the caretakers of Nandakina, and to repair and make amends where we can as quickly as possible. You cannot honor Creator if you are not manipulating, destroying, or polluting Creator's greatest gifts, our environment and each other. We must learn from these experiences so that each of us can make better decisions in the future and not repeat the errors of the past. As we join you here today, we ask each of you to reflect on what you are doing daily within your own life to honor and protect the earth and to show respect for all things that Creator has blessed us with. What message will be leaving for the next 7 generations and these children? It will be a world of clean land, air, water, or it will be chemically driven and toxic and destructive, slowly leading us to our own extinction. What message will you send, and what will be your legacy?
As we close, we ask you to join us in loving and protecting Mother Earth and all that Creator has loaned to us. And we close with a land acknowledgement and stewardship statement. As we all journey through life, we wish to acknowledge the spiritual and physical connection the Pennacook, Abenaki, and Wabanaki peoples have maintained to Ndakina, our homelands, and the Aki, land, Awan, air, Nibi, water, Olakwikak, flora, and Awaasak, fauna. As Alnumbak, the original human beings, we ask you to acknowledge the hardships that continue to be endured after the loss of unceded indigenous homelands. We seek your help to foster relationships and opportunities that strengthen the well-being of all living things as we all carry forward 13,000 years of indigenous stewardship traditions. We give great thanks to Creator, the great mystery of life, that we still remember, and we thank all our relations. At this time, we're going to explain the symbology behind our tribal flag, and you'll understand the necessity on why we had to explain the long and troubled history of the indigenous peoples on this land. Our flag describes our land and is the most crucial thing that we have. Go ahead, Paul, I'll let you talk about it.
The green background is symbolic of the white pine trees. The white pine tree is represents the Coasuk. The Coasuk, the Coos, that word represents people of the white pines. If you look at the white pine tree, I'm trying to get out of the way here. I'll get behind. The pine tree has
I'll play Vanna.
right. The pine tree has 3 roots, which represent the.
Well, you're skipping the sun.
Well, okay, I'm going to get to the sun. I'm getting to the pine tree first. We got the.
Can you tell we're a matriarchal society?
The pine tree has 3 roots representing the Connecticut, the Merrimack, and the Piscataway watersheds. In fact, the word Piscataway actually means to branch watershed like a tree, so that fits very nicely. The background is the sun. We're part of the Wapanaki Confederation, which means the people of the Dawnland. The sun is the rising sun upon the waters. There are 13 rays coming out of the sun, represents the 13 moon cycles of our community. The water line is underneath the roots, which symbolize we're water people. That's why all of our root words come out of Nibi, meaning water, and that means medicine, spirituality, and food. All of our words that have to do with sustainability really come out of the word Nibi, water. And then you see the two canoes, which are actually, one's a reflection in the water of the other. And when you combine the two with the symbology, it means we're keepers of the traditions, which is important to us. On each corner, what looks like a heart is actually a symbol of clans. In other words, family in harmony and peace and love. And each one of those corners represents love and peace of our community, representing different clans of our band. Hopefully that explains everything. And she's going to correct me.
No, I'm not. So we thank you very much for your time today, and we thank you for having us, and we thank you for adopting a land acknowledgement statement for Indigenous Peoples Day and for recognizing the continued presence of the Indigenous population today. We look forward to continue to working together and to develop a better community for all of us to live and thrive in. Oleone, thank you.
We'll be giving you a narrative of the flag so you can have it for record as well,
Right.
okay?
All right.
Believe it or not, we don't have a word for your welcome. We say, Nakagui, it was nothing, it was meant to be, it was meant for us to do this.
The generosity of our community is an essential ministry that supports the work of our church both in Newburyport and beyond. Half of each Sunday's collection, not designated as a pledge, goes to support a local partner working to transform our region. This month's shared collection will support the Greater Newbury Elder Pet Fund, serving Newburyport, West Newbury, Amesbury, Salisbury, and Rowley. The fund works closely with the area's Council on Aging to identify elders in need and collects and distributes pet food and financial donations. 100% of the donations go to our elders and their pets. Imagine the pain of having to surrender a pet, a best friend, because you couldn't afford food or veterinary care. That's just not right. Please support our deserving senior neighbors and their loving pets. Half of each Sunday's collection, not designated as a pledge, goes to support a local partner working to transform our region. If you wish to give online, please use the link in your order of service or in the video description. You can also make a contribution via text message. Of course, you can always mail a check to the church as well. The offering will now be gratefully received.
We are blessed by one another. Each Sunday, we take time to lift up the joys and the sorrows of our beloved faith community. This morning, Nancy Kidd, our pastoral care associate, will light candles as I read the joys and sorrows that have been shared with me in advance of today's service. If you would like to share a joy or a sorrow to be read in the service, you can always send an email to me or to betweenus@frsuu.org. There's also a journal out in the vestibule that you can write in when you come into the service on a Sunday morning. This morning we light a candle of joy from Tom Stites and Alex Measy, who share that their family offers this joy. Tom had successfully undergone surgery for a chronic subdural hematoma. He, tired of a persistent headache, went to a doctor a week ago on Wednesday, was sent for a brain scan, and admitted straight into the hospital. Happily, the hematoma, though in the skull, was outside of his brain. He underwent surgery Tuesday with a neurosurgeon in Portsmouth and got home Friday feeling better, though than he has felt in many weeks. And he will be wearing caps indoors for a little while. So I know that was a huge relief, and we're so grateful that he is indeed going to be just fine. We light a candle of blessed memory as Mary Sortel shares the sad news this morning that her younger brother, Dave Sortel, passed away on September 26th at his home in Evanston, Illinois. Mary writes, and I quote, "He was lovable and loving, funny, goofy, smart, insightful, kind, and so much more. One of my nephew's friends described him as everyone's uncle and the kindest person he had ever met. He was particularly close to his nephews, so much so that he was the only middle-aged adult invited to their getaway weekend bachelor parties when they got married. Our family," Mary writes, "is so much richer for his presence in our lives." And I know Mary is in Illinois now, and we send her our love. We move to share some additional joys this morning. Betsy Hazen shares the great news, and we light a candle of joy with her, of her daughter, Lydia Claire Gordon's marriage, which happened on the evening of September 24th to Charlie Peabody at the Sharksmith Estates Stone Cottage in Manchester by the Sea. 150 people traveled from all over the country to bear witness to the joining of these two remarkable young people in marriage. The setting was on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, with Boston and the South Shore visible at a distance. And the very best part of the evening for Betsy and Rob was Lydia's biggest smile on her face for the celebration's entirety. We are indeed blessed. We also light a candle of joy as Eliane Klein shares the news that she had a lovely visit with her grandchildren, Cole, who is 5 years old, and Jade, who is 18 months. The COVID situation in Canada was very restricting, so she is glad to visit now. Her daughter Robin and her husband Brent are also doing well. And we light one final candle this morning, as we do each week, for all of the joys and all of the sorrows which, though unspoken, are held in just as much love and care. This morning, our pastoral prayer is going to be in the form of a litany as we begin to transition into further ways that we can reflect upon amends. We can reflect upon ways to find peace within ourselves and in our lives. One of the things I think we long for in Unitarian Universalism is ritual. We embrace the rituals we do have, and we are hungry for additional ways to honor the ebbs and the flows of life, to celebrate the goodness and lift up where we fall short, and connect with a healing source of renewal and love. The late and dear Unitarian minister, Reverend Rob Eller Isaacs, wrote the litany that we will be sharing in together as an invitation to such ritual. We are using this today in honor of the Jewish High Holy Days, in honor of the stories that we've heard with the flag and the indigenous peoples of this land, and in honor of the changing of the seasons in the natural world as we move into autumn. I will speak a phrase and invite you to respond in singing, "We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love." I invite you to take in the words, perhaps allowing images or memories to come to mind, always in a spirit of openness and willingness to be changed. Please rise in body or in spirit. And this is also in your teal hymnal as well, 1037, if you'd like to read along. Your response will be the same. Each time singing, "We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love." And each other, we begin again in love. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. Ourselves and each other, we begin again in love. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause, forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For losing sight of our unity, give ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. May it be so. Please be seated.
Prescription for the Disillusioned by Rebecca Del Rio. Come new to this day. Remove the rigid overcoat of experience, the notion of knowing, the beliefs that cloud your vision. Leave behind the stories of your life. Spit out the sour taste of unmet expectation. Let the stale scent of what-ifs waft back into the swamp of your useless fears. Arrive curious, without the armor of certainty. the plans and planned results of the life you've imagined. Live the life that chooses you. New every breath, every blink of your astonished eyes.
And we all indeed live armored, don't we? One of the things I'm most grateful for in these times is the fact and the truth that we are being forced, strongly invited, to let some of that armor down. How can we not recognize that we are all vulnerable and that we are all beautiful and that we are all brave and that every single person has a story filled with heartache, joy, surprise, loss, gifts, all of it in the river of life. This year's theme, as you know, is peace, and this month we're looking at the concept of inner peace. So our offering this morning and my invitation to all of you is to consider what is blocking you from that inner peace. Unitarian Universalism has a long history rooted in positive theology and constructive social change. You may or may not know that our earliest ancestors, for example, the Unitarians, didn't accept the concept of original sin, and that our Universalist ancestors did not accept the belief in predestination, a very prevalent belief that it was determined at birth whether a person would go to heaven or hell after they died. Imagine that. So we built a faith based on the belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all people and the goodness, the divine spark in everyone. Unitarian Universalists today are skilled and accomplished at working for justice and equity, speaking out against the systemic flaws all around us. Yet, I believe we are, if we're humble enough, less skilled or schooled or practiced in making the time and the space in our personal lives to reflect upon how we are doing as individuals. So though this may seem a little heavy, I want to offer you a promise, and I don't make promises lightly. If you accept the invitation that I'm about to offer in the next, say, 10 minutes, and really take it into your heart and do what I'm inviting you to do, you will experience peace and joy. You will see beauty you didn't realize you'd become blind to. So do we look at the records of our life and the choices that we are making? Do we look at them and acknowledge where and when and how we've fallen short? Do we honestly reflect upon how we have hurt others or betrayed trust, which is true of all humans? Do we look back to learn, enabling ourselves to create the future we desire? Can we do this with the intention of freeing what burdens our minds and our hearts to make room for that inner peace that we need and the world needs? In my own experience, it is essential that we be willing to try and to strip away the things that block us from feelings of love, compassion, gratitude. Literally, I imagine it as armor in front of our hearts. These include things like resentments, unsettled disputes, holding blame and judgment towards ourselves and others. These things skew our ability to feel the beauty that is all around us and block the doorway to our inner sanctum of peace. I learned how to do this well into my adulthood, somewhere around the age of 43 years old, before I recognized that I don't have to live in that hell and that it didn't help. I learned it when I began participating in 12-step programs. I learned I had to review my life and make amends wherever is possible if I wanted to be free. The thought of doing that the first time was terrifying and overwhelming. What I didn't realize then, but I've come to know in my bones, is that by not taking such a regular stock of my life, naming where the resentments and lack of resolution were still in my life and my heart, and doing whatever I could to extend forgiveness, which, by the way, doesn't mean accepting always what had happened. It doesn't mean the other person will accept it. It simply means to be honest and do what we can, to then let it go. I didn't realize that not doing those things was hurting me far more than anyone else, even the most atrocious things that I held resentments for. There's no guarantee others will accept our olive branches, and yet the process itself allows us to be free, regardless of what the other person does, as long as we let go of an expectation of how it will turn out. That is key. And amends is a willingness to own our part in a situation and do whatever is appropriate to make it better. Again, we don't have to condone what the other person did. We don't have to be in relationships with the other people. We don't even have to like them. We just need to be willing to be set free from what happened. This process of self-review and making amends is, like I said, likely to be overwhelming at first. What if people don't accept our amends? And by the way, some of these will never be made face to face. It's what is within you. What about all the wrongs that are in the world and the people who hurt us? I'm so sorry, and I know it's true. Are you telling me, Reverend Rebecca, that I have to forgive the unforgivable? No, I'm not. I'm not promoting denial or asking you to forgive reprehensible harms, certainly not without a tremendous amount of work. It is about making space for and choosing inner peace. We can start small. We can start right where we are, and we do not have to review our entire lifetime. Perhaps you have a colleague who gets under your skin, or a family member to whom you spoke unnecessarily harsh. Maybe years ago, maybe this morning. Maybe you know you've been cutting a corner when you ought to take more responsibility. Again, these things may be long-standing and large or fairly recent and not a big deal. Following the Jewish calendar, we're currently in the 10 days of awe, also called the days of repentance. These holy days begin each year on Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and end on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. It is a time filled with repentance and atonement. Barry Weiss describes the days of awe as like this, quote, "The book of life is open before us. It tells stories of sadness and happiness, despair and hope, stagnation and change, and a peaceful stillness that transcends both. I love that image. The book of our lives open before us with tales, images, memories of things large and small. And in the book of life, every day and everything is significant. Everything. They're the flour that is combined with the yeast of time to make up the bread of our life. That's what we have, people. We have our experiences and time. That's our life. Each year during the days of awe, Jews look back over the past year and conduct this self-review. They check themselves against promises that they made to God the year before. They ask who they have injured and who they need to ask forgiveness from. They look for where they fell short of their values. Although it is a solitary self-reflection, they do it in community. In the afternoon after Rosh Hashanah service, Jews go together to a body of flowing water, and there they hold a ceremony where they literally cast these things off, tossing pebbles or breadcrumbs into the flowing water. It is a sacred act, an invitation to slow down and to look with honesty and humility at what transpired over the past year. It is not about pointing blame. Every one of us falls short of our ideals. Every one of us. Every one of us could be more kind, more loving. Every one of us is given this opportunity to forgive ourselves and each other and to begin again in love. What a freeing experience. It's one of the best ways to make room for change, discontinuing behaviors that are misaligned with our values. It is an invitation to say 3 of the most powerful words in the English language. I am sorry. It's not a quick fix or an overnight reconciliation of everything in our lives. It's simply a pause, a review, and a remember to right what we can, when we can, and let go of the rest to the best possible outcome. There's a brief Jewish parable that explains why we do this. There were some Jewish scholars and rabbis debating what happens after we die and what it means about how we live and what we should model and emulate. There was an elderly rabbi nearing the end of his life, and he said, in the coming world, they're not going to ask me, why wasn't I Moses? However, they will ask, why weren't you yourself? So I'm going to abbreviate our time to do this. I really invite you to do this more at home, but I'm going to take 3 minutes now to practice this. There's a piece of paper in your order of service, looks like parchment paper, sort of. It actually will dissolve in water if you choose to take it to a body of flowing water and to perform your own ritual. If you need that paper or a pen or anything, you can raise your hand. We've got ushers who will be bringing you things. I've outlined 5 questions, which are also in your order of service. If you want to do this, take a little time longer to do this. I extend an open invitation to anyone and all of you to reach out, to share about this experience with a friend of yours, a family member, a pastoral care associate, certainly myself, if you'd like a listening body or a loving ear. So first, before we start in this brief exercise, I invite you to just take a deep breath. Maybe open and close your hands for a moment, just allowing yourself to get into your body. If you're online, welcome. You are here with us. We are in this together. And bring to your mind somebody or something that reminds you of goodness. It may be an ancestor, a teacher, a tree. But allow that person or creature of nature to be with you as you do this short and brief reflection. Looking back over the past year, if you can, and don't get too hung up on that, but maybe go to last fall. Don't work hard at this. Just trust your own mind and spirit. As I ask each of these questions, you may want to write something down. For what are you grateful? One thing, many things. What are you grateful for? Who do you want to thank for their part in your life this last year? Who do you need to forgive? Or even make a small internal movement, a step closer toward forgiveness. What do you need to forgive yourself for? And finally, what is a promise that you make to yourself and to that witness that is with you now? For now, until the year from now, when we will return to this practice again. May we be willing to be a little more whole. May we be willing to release. May we be willing to be free. Amen, and blessed be. For our closing hymn, it is in your order of service, actually, entitled Let the Life I Lead, and Justin will lead us through this.
Please rise in body or spirit. I will begin singing. Please join me as you feel comfortable. Today, we'll sing the verses, the life I lead, the work I do, the love I share. And if one of the ones we're not singing is the one that is important to you, we'll just have to do the song again. But join me. This is a very easy song. I think you'll pick it up fast. Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave, and there's nothing left to say, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the work I do, let the work I do speak for me. Let the work I do speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing left to say, let the work I do speak for me. Let the love I share, let the love I share speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing left to say, let the love I share speak for me.
Please remain standing and let's join in our unison benediction as dawn extinguishes the chalice. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us now and always. For those who are able, as we've said, there's a flag raising at City Hall in just a few minutes. There's soup and salad downstairs also at noon, and a wonderful program for an hour for our First Justice Sunday here, 12:30 to 1:30. I'll close with a blessing from the Jewish tradition. May you be written in the book of life. May you write your own name there in shining ink, stirred together from the tears of the past and the sweet flower essence of your hoped-for future. May you know who you have been and who you are, and bless your future self with loving and brave intentions. Go in peace, my friends, and return again in great joy. Amen, and blessed be.